Week 8 Leadership Research Project, Ruby Payne, Understanding Poverty and Education. Ruby Payne, educator and author, has helped to increase the capacity for effective leadership of educational institutions or programs through her research on athletic activities director should educate teachers and coaches on how to successfully teach students who live in impoverished situations. Some of these key factors are poverty is relative. Poverty is relative in all situations, all classes. Poverty occurs in all races. Generational and situational poverty are different. Though poverty research is based on patterns, all patterns are different, and there's always exceptions to the rules. Schools across the U.S. operate the middle class norms and values. Students bring the hidden rules of societal class in which they were raised to the classroom. Though poverty is cross-cultured and focused on economics, there are social and cultural differences. Students who come from an impoverished situation shouldn't be excused nor punished for the social norms that they have learned in their homes for poor behavior or lack of academic success in the classroom. These students must be taught how to be successful. Students need to be taught that there are two sets of rules. Relationships sometimes have to be given up to move from poverty to middle class. Education and relationships help one move out of poverty. 4 reasons one wants to leave poverty. 1, it is too painful to stay. 2, they have a set of goals. 3, an important relationship has taken place. Or 4, they possess a special talent or skill, like being a musician or an athlete. It is imperative that school administrators, including athletic and activity directors, convey to all staff that the resources of students, whether financial or academic, should be analyzed before requests are made or advice is given, since workable solutions from a middle class perspective may be absolutely impossible for a student who is coming from an impoverished situation. Moreover, when disciplining a student who is coming from an impoverished situation, teachers must be aware of social norms that maybe aren't regularly seen in middle class classroom situations. For example, some students who come from a poverty-stricken situation may have been taught not to look adults in the eye, perhaps because they have been taught to fear adults. So this type of student is being reprimanded in the classroom, but won't look at a teacher as he or she is being reprimanded. It could be taken as being disrespectful on a teacher. Administrators have the opportunity to reduce this scenario from happening by educating teachers and coaches, and to remind them that if one models appropriate behavior in the classroom or on the field, it is the first step to building positive relationships. Ruby Payne furthers the point by stressing the fact that there are hidden rules within economic classes, which furthers the point that school administrators must educate staff in order for all students to experience success in the classroom. These are some examples of some hidden rules. Possessions. Possessions in poverty are people. Possessions in middle class are things. There's an example of when I first started teaching. We had a young lady, well, I taught at an at-risk high school. We had a young lady who was a senior, and she was getting ready to graduate, and she was excited. You could tell that, I think she was the first one in her class to, or her family, to graduate. Once graduation became closer, she started to not finish her work. You could tell her family was pulling her away. I know she lived in an impoverished situation, and it was to a point where she chose not to graduate, or was being pulled to not graduate, because if she graduated, then the possibility for leaving for college or leaving for higher education or something would then money. In poverty, money is to be used and spent, and in middle class, it is to be managed. Another thing you look at with money, you see kids or you see people from impoverished situations, there's an entertainment value there as well. And you see people from impoverished situations who have multiple tattoos. They've got habits like that are tobacco habit, an alcohol habit. They have habits that spend their money, and they look at this entertainment value before they pay their bills. Can't put food on the table, struggle to pay a cell phone bill or a car payment. pay the heating, pay the electric, something like that. And so, but yet they've got all this money spent on their body or on these habits. And the people in middle class, that doesn't make any sense. But again, when it comes to the money, with that entertainment value, then they seem to fit into the class that they're in. Education is valued, but not as a reality. That is in poverty. And in middle class, it is crucial for success. Food, quantity is important in poverty, but the quality is important in middle class. We see kids at our school here now that come from, or more in the free and reduced lunch, and come from impoverished situations, who, when they get an opportunity, will hoard junk food, hoard any type of food that they can, and a lot of times they'll eat it all at one time, or they'll stash it away. So you look at food, again, the quantity is important in poverty. Language, in poverty, language is casual registered, and in middle class, it is formal registered. And the driving forces in poverty are survival, and the driving forces for middle class are work and environment. By providing in-service opportunities for teachers and coaches to learn intervention strategies to use with students from poverty situations, administrators are not only providing support to their staff, but also are laying the foundation for an environment of tolerance throughout the school that begins with leaders in the classroom. The following are some strategies for teachers to use in the classroom or coaches to use on the playing field. Number one, seek to understand the reason for the behavior. 2, don't argue with the student. 3, respond with a calm adult voice. 4, wait for the student to calm down before talking. You know, an example, a lot of times these kids just want to get in screaming matches, and you can't do it. You have to have that adult, calm voice. 5, teach students appropriate language. I've had kids who didn't realize the way they were talking was not okay. That's how they were raised. That is what they were with. And so teaching them the appropriate language of the situation, helped them a lot. 6, impress upon the student that fighting is unacceptable in school. In fact, fighting is unacceptable anywhere. 7, provide steps needed to complete assignments. 8, provide tips for organization. 9, require practice, i.e. homework completion. Show kids how to complete homework. A lot of times I think we get confused with, here's an assignment, it's common sense to us or kids from middle class, and these kids don't understand what needs to take place to actually complete it. So providing those steps to those kids can help them be successful. 10, stress stealing is illegal no matter where you are or what class you're in. 11, use strategies that provide participation opportunities in class. Though it is difficult to do in the heat of an argument with a student, Payne stresses that teachers must use a non-judgmental voice and refrain from negative, nonverbal body language. Conversely, students from poverty need to understand that there are 2 sets of behavior, one for the classroom and one for the street. Teachers need to show students how to use a language of negotiation for them to experience success both in the classroom and outside of the school. This, in the end, shows the students that there's an alternative to aggressive behavior. Teaching students these hidden rules provide a greater possibility for favorable behavior in the classroom, which in turn equates to further attainment of goals, such as academic and teacher-student relationships. This leads to the following suggestions for teachers to use in the classroom to ensure building positive relationships with students. 1, call on everyone in the classroom equitably. Provide individual help equitably. Allow students time to answer your question. 4, ask questions with clues so a successful answer can be given. Provide that question with surrounded by the answers. Help them to attain that answer. Seeing success. Ask questions that require contemplation. 6, give praise. In fact, heap praise. It doesn't matter a class, it doesn't matter what socioeconomic class you're in, it doesn't matter what race, people like praise. And when you feel like you've been successful in something, you want to be praised, you want to be congratulated. People want to know they did a great job. So praise is a great thing in any aspect. 7, be a good listener. 8, try to understand the student's feelings. 9, be courteous to all students. 10, show students you personally care and provide compliments. 11, Don't publicly draw attention to every negative issue. So at this point, we have discussed the key factors of students who come from economically challenged students. So now we must discuss strategies that administrators and coaches can provide teachers and coaches so they have the tools to improve or eliminate the achievement gap for students with resource challenges. In the past, we have traditionally placed under-resourced students into schools made up primarily of well-resourced students and asked them to be successful in that environment without the necessary support. Administrators and athletic directors are now challenged with the job of teaching teachers and coaches how to provide those necessary resources so the under-resourced students can not only find success in the school environment, but more importantly, can find academic success. Some of these strategies are: 1, provide extra time, such as tutoring and electronic training. A lot of times we get these kids that come in that don't necessarily have a phone, they don't have a computer, they don't have an electronic device, and so we come into schools with, I need you to look this up, or I need you to go to this website, or I need you to do this or that, or log into OneNote notebook, or pull up an email, or something. They know how to do it. And so providing that training then can help those kids be successful in their classrooms. 2, ensure that content comprehension is actually taking place, and stress that there are reasons and continuous patterns and learning processes that must take place in order for further learning comprehension to take place. An explanation that academic material builds on itself gives the learning process meaning. 3, use mental models such as drawings, stories, and analogies to aid in retention of academic content material. This aids in the student ability to increase a memory of information rather than it going in one ear and out the other, since the student has no connection to the material. I teach health class, and I find this particular subject is very relative to everybody. And be able to provide stories, be able to help those kids see why it's important for proper nutrition, why it's important to have a regular exercise routine, why it's important to have good hygiene, why it's important to treat people the way you want to be treated, using the golden rule, how to have positive relationships, understanding the dangers of drug use and alcohol use and tobacco use. There are a lot of things that we get to use and tell stories and show in everyday life to help kids see why it's important and what can happen if you do not take your health seriously. And it's not just health class. For a teacher to be effective, if you can take the material, put that into real life situation, I believe kids then, no matter what social class they're in, will retain that information better. 3, use mental models such as drawing. 4, use a problem-solving process that requires students to provide students to complete the tasks of an assignment through a systematic approach. 5, have students complete an evaluation of their own work prior to turning it in with self-assessment rubrics. 6, use academic tasks that require students to teach each other. 7, use tools such as graphic organizers so students can sort what material is important from what is unimportant. And then 8, use games to introduce information. It makes a more equal learning environment for all students. 9, use a positive reward system as a way to reward positive classroom behavior as well as task completion. And then 10, provide verbal affirmations that are nurturing and display affirmations such as I am responsible for my success. And those affirmations should be real, not just thrown out there like, oh, great job. A real affirmation, those kids can actually know that you're real and you're serious. To conclude, to help increase the institutions or programs, administrators must educate their teachers and coaches on how to meaningfully build an environment in the classroom and the school as a whole, where all students feel they are respected. The administrators themselves must embrace this obligation to students who come from poverty. By taking this initiative, administrators increase the capacity for effective leadership in their educational program. Ruby Payne stresses teachers need to make efforts to give students from poverty an opportunity to feel they are welcome in their classroom. They need to appeal to these students by trying to understand their situations extending kindness, clarifying expectation, and apologizing when necessary. And sometimes that's hard for everybody. Further, administrators and teachers, coaches, can communicate acceptance by showing respect, appreciating humor, assisting with goal setting, and always providing help as needed. Creating relationships by Ruby Payne. The role of an educator is not to save the student, but rather to offer a support system, role models, and opportunities to learn, which will increase the likelihood of the student's success.